All right. Smile for the camera. All about 2 eyes.
Okay. We're ready to roll.
Ready to roll? All right. I hereby call this Millburn 24 school board meeting to order and ask for a roll call.
John Benson,
Here.
Brendan Murphy.
Here.
Peter Petroni.
Here.
William Phelps. Here. John Ruggles.
Here.
Fred Stepson.
Here.
Lisa Wooster. Here.
Rise for pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do we have any public comments? No public comments. All right. Are there any addition of non-action items? No. All right. Action item. Start with A, approve 23-24 Board of Education meeting calendar.
I move to approve the board calendar as provided with our agenda package.
Second. All right, motion has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Pass. All right, approve MBAC fees for the 23-24 school year.
Motion to approve the fees for the MBEC 2023-24 school year.
All right, Mr. Ruggles,
Second.
second from Mr. Federini. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Pass. All right. All right, approve Cottonwood Estates annual impact fee.
Motion to approve the Cottonwood Estate impact fee.
Motion from Mr. Murphy,
Second.
second from Mrs. Brown. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, 3 for 3. All right, approve Arbor Management contract renewal for the 23-24 school year.
Move to approve the Arbor Management contract renewal for the 2023-2024 school year.
Ruggles,
Second.
second, Mr. Federini. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
That's gotta be a roll call.
That's gotta be a roll call vote?
That's,
We're on a roll.
Sorry. Sorry, I didn't catch you in time.
William Phelps. Aye. John Ruggles.
Yes.
Fred Stepson.
Yes.
Lisa Wooster. Yes. John Benson.
Yes.
Brendan Murphy.
Yes.
Peter Petroni.
Yes.
Motion passed.
All right, next one. Approve the contract with Little Heroes LLC for 23-24 school year.
I had a quick question on this
Sure.
one. So that's our physical therapy one, but then I also saw, so it's stated in there about them, they're independent contractors. They'll do the background checks, all that, but then I also noticed, what's her name? Gobieski here, Sherry, as someone we need to approve. Is that something that we normally approve independent contractors when we already have a contract with their company, or how does that?
He is the company.
Okay,
So in certain cases where we have hard to fill positions, like a physical therapist, we contract for people to up to a certain number of days or hours for with that company. Sherry's the owner of the company, and she's the one providing the service as well.
gotcha.
And she's done it for many, many years. And she was an employee at one time, but as things shifted.
Yeah, and I see the $85 per hour, and that's just one person. Well, is that in that standard market for physical therapy?
Very good price.
Okay,
So if we were to go out on the market and hire a physical therapist, it would be more expensive
okay.
for a contract service.
And that's primarily for our CEDOL students, and the middle academy, okay.
No, it's for, Millburn students
Okay,
for, early childhood up through 5th grade kids.
Okay.
She might do some at the middle school too, actually. She does, and
She provides services that are identified, there's also education evaluation of these that need therapy. And to address them during their school day. A lot with our structured learning program. Students, that present the highest needs in our districts, typically have physical therapy. We have a couple of students in wheelchairs, and just other needs with physical therapy sports.
A part of the question I have is, that's a sort of, the school provides instead of like the students own healthcare or? Okay,
Okay. Any more questions? No? All right. We need do we have a motion in a second?
Make a motion to approve the contract with Little Heroes LLC for the 2023-24 school year.
second,
All right, motion made in second. We're gonna need a roll call.
John Ruggles,
Yes.
Fred Steptoe,
yes.
Lisa Rooster. Yes. John Lorenzen,
Yes.
Brendan Murphy,
Yes.
Peter Pecherini,
Yes.
Jillian Phelps. Yes. Motion passed.
Approved purchase and installation public address system for MES in the amount of,
$33,515, not 05. That's a typo there. The zero should be a 1. So I apologize for the typo, but it's $33,515. So when you make the motion, it will be as intended.
I hate to, be the squeaky wheel here. Just what was the difference between the $30,000 quote and like the $90,000 quote? Because if this is gonna be something that's only gonna have a 10-year lifespan versus if the 90,000 was a 30-year lifespan.
The $90,000 quote had a lot of bells and whistles that we don't need or we already have in different systems, primarily like our security system. I think it's called Navigate 360. So we have another technology system where we can check in students and communicate with staff. So that $90,000 system had those pieces as well.
And do we have an estimated lifespan on this system? Because the other one, like, we can't get the parts anymore.
Right. Well, and so this will be slightly different because it's more web-based. All of these systems that were quoted. In terms of a lifespan, I don't have the lifespan, but we have, I believe, I think they all had similar 1-year warranties. I'm sure the previous PA system lasted almost 20 years, like 25 years. So they last quite a while.
Do we sign a service agreement with that too, or is it just?
There's not a separate service agreement, so if something, say breaks with the system, then someone would come out and look at it. The nice thing about this system though is that mainly will be the principal, inputting the information. You can do it remotely through the web system, so I don't anticipate much breaking. I guess anything could happen, but we would just have a service call come out separately.
And it will be significantly less expensive than our current system for service. Our current system was Sound Incorporated, the higher quote, and they're fine, but they're one of the more expensive service providers for that equipment. For their own equipment, nobody else can work on it. Just, they got us.
For these stores.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yep.
That was my question.
Yeah, and we had to, so one of the questions I had was, why do we need the PA system? Can we just do it through our phones? Because some schools can do it through our phones. Well, that's not working for us right now. Right now, that's what we're doing as a stopgap, but it's not gonna. It's not loud enough in the classrooms, and then the bigger classrooms or a room like this, the phone is back in the office. So there's no way to hear an announcement over here the phones. Whereas the speakers here in the hallways, in the gym, in the cafeteria, and the libraries, that's what we need to hit, and our current phone system's not plugged into that, so we still need that PA system. And outside, so it also will go outside. For announcements.
I move to approve the purchase and installation of public address system for MES in the amount of $33,515 as amended.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. I think we'll need a roll call.
Brad Stepstrom,
Yes.
Lisa Wooster,
Yes.
John Lorenzen,
Yes.
Brendan Murphy.
Yes.
Peter Petroni,
Yes.
Jillian Phelps,
Yes.
and John Doyle.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Approval of increase of 0.1 FTE occupational therapy.
So we are asking to move our current occupational therapist up from 0.9 to full-time. There's, she has been doing a lot of our early childhood assessments this year. And we've had, Adam, is it double or triple the amount of? Double the amount of, testing this year for kids coming in. So we're seeing younger kids come in with more severe disabilities and that. She's a part of that team. And we're seeing that we're paying her for her hours over and above anyway. We might as well pay her full time.
Move to approve the increase of 0.1 FTE for our occupational therapist.
Second.
We need a roll call.
Yep.
All right.
Lisa Wooster. Yes. John Lorenzen,
Yes.
Brendan Murphy.
Yes.
Peter Petroni,
Yes.
Jillian Phelps,
Yes.
John Ruggles,
Yes.
and Brad Stepstrom.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Approve resolution to transfer budget items within education.
So last week, we briefly touched on a high-level budget process. So in the beginning of the school year, the board approves the budget for the year. Throughout the year, we may need to make an adjustment or an amendment. We are able to do a transfer, a resolution to transfer budget items. Because the changes that are needed are under 10% of the given fund here, which is Fund 10, the education fund. So we have 9 funds within our budget. Really what the main change here, the one that we're absolutely required to do is coming out of the 22 audit. Our auditors noted that we needed to make an adjustment to administrative costs. So that very first line, those 4 numbers there are basically saying we're moving the money that our auditor told us to move from the administrative cost account code to an educational services, I think, account code. And then the other ones, and I put this in my business report right up, essentially are just some other adjustments where in one case there was an incorrect salary line. So I think the next 2 lines are just moving 2 salaries from an incorrect salary line to a correct salary line. And then the last 4 line items there are account codes pertaining to where we had some overages on the from side under the education fund, where there was just a deficit in these account codes again for business services. We're just basically transferring money from one sub account to another sub account within the education fund.
So if it starts with 10, it's the education.
And our auditors told us we had to do it.
The top line we have to do. And then what I'll do then this week, once this is approved, then I adjust the budget and resubmit it to ISB, the Illinois State Board of Education.
Move to approve the resolution to transfer budget items within the education fund.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. We will need a roll call vote.
John Lorenzen,
Yes.
Brendan Murphy.
Yes.
Peter Petroni,
Yes.
Jillian Phelps, John Ruggles,
Yes.
Fred Stepson,
Yes.
and Lisa Rooster. Yes. Motion passed.
Consent agenda.
Okay, there's two very minor changes on the consent agenda. One under the ESY professionals for MES. So ESY stands for Extended School Year Services. Those are special education students that have written in their IEP to have extended school year services. And so they continue on for about a month in the summer. We're done basically before July 4th. So we need paraprofessionals to support that. The first paraprofessional, Bagya, is not going to do it. She decided not to. So we can scratch her off and then add Nicole Miller, Mueller, who has decided to do it. So that's a change there. And then under, on the next page, under summer fun teachers at MES, the Dan Jazzo should be Lisa Jazzo. That was probably just a autofill.
So, yeah, for the bill approval, because we generally approve the whole consent agenda at once, for the bill approval, I was looking at the arbor, the foods arbor management. And so that's a per month bill, that 31,722, that's for the whole month.
Right.
And that's what they bill us, but then we collect $4.15 per kid.
Well, so it depends. So if students are not what is deemed free and reduced, they would, I believe they paid $3.50. So in the beginning of this year, last year when we approved the food cost, $3.50 was going to be the going lunch rate. In the beginning of the school year, there was a law that was passed in which the state would give reimbursement. So the state gives some, or there's some, I think, federal dollars that come that reimburse for our food costs. The state said that because school districts would be getting an additional 40 cents in reimbursement for lunch, that the food service provider, Arbor, or whoever it is, can go back to the district and ask for more money because of supply chain issues and the cost of food and all of that. So in the fall, we went back and forth with Arbor to agree upon a new food rate. $4.15 is where it is, but we didn't increase the cost to families who were not free and reduced, because there was enough money to kind of cover that, the additional cost. So we do get a reimbursement from the federal government. We do get money from families if they're not free and reduced. If a student is free and reduced, we get additional reimbursement dollars.
So that gets paid to the school, not directly to Arbor.
Right.
It just,
Yeah.
the math on there that I was doing, so 31,722, 21, and so for the month of May,
Mhm.
21 school days, coming out to $1,500 a day. That's 364 meals at $4.15. We only have about a third of the students doing school lunch. Is that accurate? Okay,
Sounds all right,
okay.
if that.
Yeah. Gotta eat, yeah. You know, I just seems low for how much, like we pack our kids.
This year, so what happened last year too with COVID, or the last 2 years, lunches were completely free for everyone. So last year especially, we saw a lot of people took advantage of that, right? Because it was free food. This year, we're seeing a drop off. Not as many students are getting hot lunch, simply because it's no longer free. So I'm thinking that we're just seeing a dip in the usage of it.
How do teachers get reimbursed for their school supplies? Is there like a budget they each get like X amount of dollars? Are they allowed to pass it back and forth amongst each other?
No, so they get $100 each to use for school supplies within every fiscal year. Our special ed teachers, they get additional money is available through federal grants. And then parents, with our school supply list, there's
Right.
often things like dry erase markers that the classroom uses or other supplies payments.
Is there a mechanism for them if they need to go over the 100, they can make that request or not really?
If there was something very pressing, like, so if we get, say, a new teacher fresh out of college, there's some additional money in the budget to help them set up a classroom, for, supplies above and beyond what's typically needed. I haven't really seen too many instances where a teacher has needed, additional funds. The only two instances I can think of is a couple years ago when we went to one-to-one iPads. I think all teachers, at least at the elementary school, were given an additional budget for iPad storage. Or what a lot of teachers do is they have like a wish list that they pass out to the parents in their classroom, and the parents are really good at fulfilling the wish list.
Did you hear the horror stories that the teachers go, oh, God, they spend so much money because I don't have enough to spend in the classroom?
They do. I mean, teachers do spend more money than.
Yeah?
Sure.
Yeah, our families spent about $30 on the teacher wish list, just
That's good.
did that with Play-Doh and command hooks in the classroom. Something I saw in there, so I would assume that they used to use Amazon Smile and it would go to Epic. Again, they can choose any charity they want, but Amazon Smile's ending, Amazon Smile. There are affiliate programs for Amazon. And, the school's not really monetized in any way, but if there's some website that can be monetized and you can direct teachers to order through that link. And then the school can get just like a little chunk, due to the ending of.
So we use Amazon Business, and so
Okay.
we're getting lower rates on various school supplies. A lot of our vendors, we either use through a state consortium where we get automatic discounts, or Staples Advantage is another one where we have an agreement with them where we're getting reduced prices on office supplies. School Specialty is a company that a lot of our teachers use. They give us an automatic 25% discount. So we really maximize those discounts. One other thing too, for school, teacher supplies typically are, Epic gives, teachers, a gift card to use at Brainstorm, the teacher store in town every year. So it's just some additional supplies that we can get. And then our specials teachers that have more than one class. So say our art teacher here at the elementary building, she has a larger budget. Same with PE, STEM, theater at the middle school, choir, band, music, they have larger budgets. Yeah, because they work with more students.
Thanks.
Yep.
So that was all on the bill payment, but then in the activity report, I saw like things on there for the first grade field trip. Things like that. I was under the impression that was something Epic paid for. Or like, how does that,
Well, I see.
that one's at zero, but,
Okay, so, the activity account, so back in the day, this was years before I was here, but we had these activity funds, and they would be anything like field trips or, different maybe, clubs that would take in money. And a couple years ago, the law changed where all of these funds, unless they were, for the most part, being fundraised by students, and then the students were directing how to pay out the dollars, like where that money was going to be spent. The money would have to go over to our budgeted account, like not the activity account anymore. So that's why you see all of these zeros here. And the reason this is in a different format from our other financial reports and sitting here is because we use Quicken for this. Simply because it needed to be tracked completely separately back in the day from our, what I call like our taxpayer dollars essentially, and our state and federal funds. So now what we have here, like cheerleading, if they did a fundraiser, the choir field trip is a good one. Choir boosters, I mean, is a good one. They do a fundraiser every year and then they take that money and go on a field trip or do something with it. So typically Epic does pay for most of the field trips, but that's in, again, our other bank account where we're budgeting for that and, you're seeing the financial reports, once a month at actually it's baked into the treasurer report that you see here.
So it'd be something that like Epic gives the school money for it, then the school writes the check to
Yeah,
the gardens or whatever.
right,
Gotcha.
yeah, there's a really detailed process on that, if ever I can walk you through it, because
We'll
I
send
helped
the meeting.
create it, so, yeah. But it's a, yeah, very detailed process, but we can go over that separately, yeah.
All right. Any other questions about the consent agenda? Nope. All right, then I need a motion to approve.
Move to approve the consent agenda as amended.
Second.
Second. All in favor? Since we're not, no, we're not,
No,
this is money? Okay. then we'll move.
Brendan Murphy,
Yes.
Peter Petrino,
Yes.
Jillian Phelps.
Yeah.
John Ruggles,
Yes.
Brad Stepstone,
Yes.
Lisa Booster. Yes. And John Lorenzo.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Information and discussion of FOIA.
there it is. That's our FOIA, we will respond. Okay, MTSS, Mr. Rollins. Would you like me to put up your presentation, Mr. Rollins?
For those who I haven't met yet. Nice to meet you. So the MTSS presentation is finally here. It's been on the future agenda item for a long time. Sorry, it took me a while to prepare this 50-slide presentation for you. So, bear with me, I just want to make it. It's not 50 slides. Well, we do have a guidebook though that I've been working on this year. Capture all of the wonderful things that are happening here in Millburn. That is about 50 slides. So Jason asked me to give a 30,000 overview tonight. So there's 9 slides. We need to ask questions as we go. But as you zoom in from the 30,000-foot view, it definitely gets more complicated in detail. So I'd be happy to come back and present any more information to you guys. All right, MTSS, multi-tiered system of supports. If you didn't know already, and very passionate about this work in our school. Which is why we have 50 slides in our guide. We're going to take those 50 slides and that information, and we're going to create a leadership team next year, so that we're going to very thoroughly review, revamp, revisit our processes here in the district. Research best practices, go through other schools. So we want to get better in this area. We're doing a lot of wonderful things, but we have certainly room for improvement. So that's going to be some good work we're going to do next year. So that's slide 1 already. All right, this is the most words you will see on a slide. I know that's a very detailed definition, but I thought it was important for you guys to get the definition of MTSS. If you want to just take a moment to read that.
Light green is.
All right. We'll unpack that in the next few slides, but I thought the visual was very nice because it does all means all. Every student in our district falls under the MTSS umbrella. That's academically, behaviorally, and or social emotionally. So it's looking at the whole child. Okay, so we are data driven. I will try to use data for the rest of my presentation and not go back and forth from data to data. So data it is. So that is some of the data samples that we use to make our decisions. So we move students throughout three-tiered model based on data decision making. So we use NWA, otherwise known as MAP scores. FastBridge, that is our progress monitoring tool. We started piloting that program at the end of last year, and our teachers really liked it, so we adopted it, and we're using FastBridge this year in full effect for students in RTI receiving academic interventions and for students in special education. So that is where we're using this tool right now. It has the capacity to be used as a screener, like the NWA test, benchmark assessment. We can also screen students on the social emotional side of things too, but we just haven't gotten that far with it yet, but it has the potential to do that. Yes,
You said RDI?
RTI.
RTI, what is
Yeah,
that?
response to intervention. We'll talk about that a little bit more. All right, so this is one of my favorite slides, and I will do my best not to go up there and point because I feel like I have to, but I'll do my best from back here so I don't get in anybody's way. This is basically what multi-tiered systems of supports student success is, MTSS. We use this triangle often to describe it, and we use those data pieces, those percentiles, to see if we are running these tiered levels of support with fidelity. So on the left side of the MTSS model, you have academic systems, which is RTI, which is response to intervention. So that's the academic side for supporting students academically. And on the right side, we have behavioral systems, otherwise known as PBIS. That stands for Positive Behavior Interventions and Supports. That's a framework where we support students behaviorally and socially. Now, students get supports sometimes just on the academic side, sometimes just on the behavioral side, and sometimes on both sides of the coin. So in the green, we have tier 1 level of support and instruction. That is our proactive, preventative tier. That is what every student in our school gets. If you are implementing tier 1 academic curriculum, research-based, guaranteed and viable curriculum with fidelity to all of our students with ongoing professional development, you will have 80 to 90% of your student population responding successfully. Same goes on the right side with behavioral. We have a behavioral curriculum first step, along with many other pieces in the tier 1 level, that if you're implementing that with fidelity, you're pre-teaching behavior, you're recognizing positive behavior consistently and effectively, you'll have 80 to 90% of your student population responding. In any school setting, you will have 5 to 15% in that yellow area, that's tier 2 levels, or you will have 5 to 50% of your student population that does not respond to tier 1 successfully. And that's okay. That's why we have tier 2 levels of support. And we'll get into some examples of what that looks like. And we identify students through data that tells us that they need more support. Those students in the yellow also get the green every day, all day, but they just get a little bit more with the yellow. And then tier 3, that is about 1 to 5% of any student population in any school setting will need tier 1 in the green, we'll need tier 2 in the yellow, and then we'll need an added layer of support in red. Tier 3 interventions and supports. And as you guys can see on the right and left side, they basically say the same thing. But as you move up the triangle, it becomes more intense. So an intervention, more individualized as you move up the triangle. And that is pretty good representation of what MTSS is all about. All right.
How do you determine where a student falls?
Yeah, good question. So we use, and the teams, I think is the next slide. So I think that'll help. Oh, never mind. It's after this. And this is a nice visual that we use. Yeah, that's okay. You want it next. Just with the ice cream. Okay, cool. This is just a nice visual. Everybody in our school gets tier 1, everybody. So vanilla ice cream. And then tier 2, everybody gets the vanilla scoop of ice cream, but tier 2 students, we're getting away from that. We do not want to label our students as tier 2 students. We have students who need tier 2 levels of support. we do not want to categorize students into particular groups here. And some students are tier 1 mathematically, and some students are tier 2 in reading, right? We don't want to put them all in a category. Some students are tier 1 academically across the board. You have some students who need tier 2 levels of support behaviorally. So it's not all, tier 2, right? And all of us, I'm sure you guys can hopefully relate, we're all tier 2, tier 3 in certain areas, right? That we need levels of support and other strategies. So, and then tier 3. Not funny. Tier 3 students get the ice cream, they get the chocolate syrup because they get tier 2. And they also get more individualized supports, which could be the sprinkles or the cherry or the whipped cream. Now going on to your question, the next slide, here's the teams. Here's how we make sure that our tiered levels of support are running with fidelity. We have teams at each level that are analyzing data to determine if they need further support. So for example, the universal team in green, that's tier 1. We have teams at both buildings that are constantly reflecting on our tier 1 curriculum. How are we delivering instruction academically and behaviorally or social emotionally? And then we use those data points that were in the previous slide. We have the teams going through those data points to see if they need tier 2 levels of support.
And those teams are made up of who?
Just different people at different
Teachers, administrators.
Paraprofessionals, administrators, absolutely. We want a good representation of all of our staff. And we would love parents. We've had parents on the chat.
That's gonna be my next question.
Yeah, we've had parents. According to one of our fidelity tracking tools, because of the tracking tool, fidelity measures on every level to see if you're implementing a fidelity. And one of the fidelity measures on tier 1 is you have a parent representation. So that's a piece there. If a student qualifies for tier 2 levels of support in yellow, that team right there in the yellow is reviewing and analyzing the machine. We are not talking about students in that particular secondary system team right there. We are asking ourselves, do those interventions, are they running with fidelity? How many students are in them? How many students are successful? How many students are not? So we're looking at the overall intervention there with that team and determining what students good things are happening. But then as you move to the other different shade of yellow there, now that problem solving team is really digging in individually students and having individual conversations about students. Those are the teachers. You might have a psychologist in that discussion. You might have a social worker. You certainly have parents in that discussion to determine how the student is doing at that tier 2 level of support and what needs to happen moving forward.
When you say parents, you mean that particular child's parent?
Yeah. And now that the interventions are now getting specific to the child, and we need to talk about
We'll kind of keep it within there.
You start with some of those.
Yeah, sure. So check and check out, CICO, check and check out is our first level of intervention of the tier 2 levels. Now the idea is response to intervention is to get in early, to not let the students develop skills and behaviors for a long period of time that are not working for them in school. To identify early with data, you get an intervention in early at the tier 2 level. So check and check out, we don't call it that here anymore. At the elementary school, it's called connections. At the middle school, it's called mentoring. Really what it is identifying a student through data. It could be referrals. It could be absences from school. Nurses visits is a data that we look at. Because that is a sign that a student might be avoiding the classroom, wanting to go somewhere else. And they want more adult attention. And that is exactly what check and check out is. It's getting a positive staff member involved in that student all throughout their day to support them, set goals, to help them succeed in the area that they qualified in the first place for them. SAIG is social academic instructional groupings. Now you're getting small group instruction from a staff member on specific skills of it. One small group could be devoted for students who might be disrupting the classroom. So you pull a small group of students, you initiate a 6-week intervention, a very specific curriculum and skills that you're teaching them. Hopefully they go back to success. The data shows yes or no. If it is successful, they move back into tier one, in that particular area. If it's not, then they might move on to a different layer of infection. To support. Within tier two, or they might move on to tier three levels.
Would things like that be lunch bunch?
It could be, okay, yeah, there's lots of different types of social skills. Yeah. You could have them for attendance, if there are students who are missing a lot of school, we might hold them, and talk to them about skills they need to do at school on time and do at school. It could be during lunch, for sure. But again, those programs are, like, students are identified through data. It's a common in those programs. But lunch bunches happen, I think, all over the districts. Could be just something that the teachers implementing my district. And I guess students, maybe not specific to the tier two level intervention, but it could.
How involved is the student themselves? I'm sure it depends on the grade, with this problem solving. I mean, do they know they're, well, you're gonna be part of this
That's a great question.
RTI?
And I really do feel like we need to do a little bit better in that area. It definitely depends on the age. So as a student gets older, we want them involved every step of the way. Even with 504 meetings and IEP, we're looking to figure out ways that we can even get students involved as early as kindergarten, all the way through 8th grade, and you just add to that level of involvement, right? Obviously, when they're young, you want to step in maybe to a meeting and present their strengths, right? And then they leave and great job, great presentation, and you take the strengths and have value to incorporate into their plan.
So they are part of it then.
Yeah, we try to. We want to get them more involved. Sometimes you do have a group of adults sitting there talking about the child about a matter. And us thinking that we know what's going to happen. But it is. It's right and good in some occasions, right? Like this student wants to be there, right, for whatever reason, or we just might need to have an adult conversation. Great question. So keep going through the slide. So, brief FBA BIP in the yellow. FBA stands for Functional Behavior Assessments. That's where you're collecting data and really analyzing the data. You're looking at where the successes are throughout that student's day. You're looking at where the struggles are throughout that student's day. You're looking at what behaviors are occurring. You're looking at triggers. What's triggering the behavior? What are the antecedents? What's happening after the behavior is occurring? You're really analyzing very, very good level. And then the BIP is a behavior intervention. You're taking that data and you're wrapping a plan around that student, a positive behavior plan. With positive supports, you're tapping into their strengths. You're really using data to try to improve certain skill areas. And you certainly share that plan with teachers and the parents, and they're all working together to help. And as you go to the right, as you're moving towards tier 3, you guys see over in the red, where it's complex FBA bit. So now you're into tier 3 behaviors, which are certainly more complex, right? You're probably seeing multiple behaviors in multiple settings, whereas a brief, you might be just seeing a couple of behaviors in just a certain, maybe a couple of classrooms where you're trying to work through, but it's more complex. The tier levels. Anybody else have any other questions about any of this? Wrap-around intervention, very proud of this. We finally got trained in wrap-around tier 3 intervention this year with Allie Hearn. You may have heard her name. She's been working with our district with restorative practices, but she also provides very good professional development. All of this. So wrap-around is a tier 3 level of support on the behavioral, social, emotional side of the practice. And it is what it says. You're wrapping a team around a child and their family. So instead of in a tier 2 level of support where the adults are choosing the team, right? Typically it's the school staff that are choosing. Wraparounds when you're identifying a student that's not only struggling in school, but also at home and in the community. So you're really now broadening that. And you allow the family, the parents and the child to pick their team. So they're identifying people that are important in their lives, that are impactful in their lives, and you're letting them choose the team. Examples of a wraparound team, we have 4 wraparound teams right now with 4 of our students in our district, and the families pick staff members for sure. They might pick a baseball coach, they might pick a pastor. They might pick a grandma, a grandpa, and maybe and wrap a really supportive team around that family. And we identify their needs, sometimes very basic needs that this family needs in order to be successful, and we can bridge that school and home. Sorry, guys, I can talk about this. There's no more questions on this slide. So those are the teams. The teams are very important. We have to have functioning teams running with fidelity in order to keep our MTSS model. Here's an example of the middle school. Very small, sorry, I'll do a quick overview. But the green up top is tier 1, what all students are getting at the middle school. It again talks about curriculum. It talks about parent involvement. It talks about effective classroom management plan. Things like that at the green level. Then as you move down to the middle part of that, those are our specific interventions. On the left side, you guys, way over on the left side, you see those 2 boxes, purple boxes? Those are the data points that we decided students would enter the tier 2 level of support. Those are the data points that would trigger a student. So for example, referrals would trigger a student to go into mentoring. A D or an F on a report card or in a class would trigger a student to go into mentoring, lower level support. And then the idea is you layer on the supports as you move to the right. After 4 to 6 weeks of intervention, if it's not successful, you layer on more supports. That's time building.
So about a month you reevaluate, and if they're doing better, they're back to tier
In a
1.
perfect world, tier 2 level of support is get in fast, get in quick, develop skills, and then get out. So the student has that. The idea of response intervention is not to wait. So our teams have to develop a process where we identify quick, fast with data, we get in with an intervention, hopefully that intervention is in place. Because the behavior hasn't been there for too long, right? But that's a really hard part of this whole process. You're building the flame while you fly it oftentimes. And when you're developing these layers of support, you're identifying the students with the highest need with tier 2 levels of support that are supposed to be quick and fast. So it just takes time to develop the system and process. But yeah, ideally, you want the student to be on the intervention for 4 to 6 weeks, you assess, you reassess, and then determine what they need.
And is it just one of those criteria that triggers it, or do they need to have like 2 of those 5? Or-
Yeah, we want to have very, very quick sort of one criteria for them to qualify. So we felt like we talked a lot about techniques today. We talked a lot about the data buckets is what we call them. So for example, an F or 2Ds in a classroom, that's for any period of time, that's a big deal. So if that's the case, we'll put mentoring.
Was that F is the same as a 1 then? Because we don't do letter grades for elementary.
Yeah, it would be different. So this is the middle school. We do have a similar model for the elementary school, but just for the sake of time. So one of the reasons why students get in, and then on the right side is students. And then in the red, you got some tier 3 levels of support that we. It's just, if you get, just if you go back 1 slide. Yeah, I think I mentioned that, and you don't have to read that slide, but as students layer up, call that, where they layer up, right? They go to tier 2, tier 3. The idea is data has to show that they're successful, and then we layer down. So if they're receiving tier 3 interventions and they're showing success, we don't just say, great job, you graduated, good luck to you. We will then layer down to tier 2 levels of support into them. And then if that's successful, we can layer down back out to 2. So you layer up and you layer down. And there's exceptions to every rule. Exceptions to every rule. That's the ideal situation. You might have students in tier 1 that need quick tier 3 interventions because they have something going on. Right? So we want to support them as much as possible, as quickly as possible with the right levels. And just the core beliefs. All students can learn and should have appropriate learning opportunities. Prevention and early intervention are key. Everyone in the school is responsible. Collaboration and reflective practice is essential. A good team. Effective core instruction is imperative. Data critical to our process. Clear entrance and exit criteria for every intervention. Research. Based interventions. Parents are vital. That's it.
You're the MTSS guy.
Haven't had that. Reason to put-
The only
because
reason-
see, there's so many teams and there's so many, everybody's.
Now, the reason I asked it is, I know we have the inverse of this. Are these programs intertwined, or are they completely separate? You know, we're talking here, the pyramid where you're backsliding. But for instance, like AIM, is that the same sort of thing? Or this has nothing to do with any of that? Or you have nothing to do with
I
that?
think it does involve, yeah, that's a really good question. AIM is part of it, yes. So AIM would be a tier one, but actually AIM could probably be a tier two or tier
So
three.
it's sort of like
before
the
academic.
inverse of this? And it falls under this MTSS or not really?
There's actually a nice visual of, I have in the slide deck. That's more of a diamond shape, right? So you're getting the tiered levels of support, and that does include an AIM program, right? For students on the academic side, the other side, right? Not needing intervention, but actually needing.
Challenges, yeah.
Exactly.
So that's you.
Yeah, we're working on it to do better at this every day. We've got a lot of good things going on, but we're excited about it. The pandemic certainly turned everybody's world upside down, so we had some pretty good interventions in place. And we just had to do things a lot differently during the pandemic. So we just lost sight a little bit of some of these interventions, and now we're filling the gaps again, but we're getting back to the programming processes that we had before.
So to go on to tier two, there was either have 5 excused or unexcused absences. Is there a time frame to have that in? Like over the course of a year, like kid gets a, so what's the time?
Yeah, I can't remember exactly the time frame that is put in place, but it's certainly within a couple of months.
Okay, not like the whole, okay.
Well, the flu would be excused, right?
But it said 5 excused and unexcused.
Yeah, so what we do with that is we identify that as reach the first couple months of school. And then as a couple more months go on, we that down, but it gets a little bit bigger. For sure. Yeah. It's 5 absences throughout the school year, is not too bad. But that was more for
In like 1 month, more than that.
Part of that investigation process would be asking why. So if we know that the family's got illness going around and we know why kids are out of school, that's a little different story than they're just not coming.
Is there any sort of strict timeline on any movements between the levels, or can you fast track somebody who really needs?
Yeah, the expedite. Sure. There are times that we identify a student going into tier 2 where behavior is pretty significant quickly, it develops quickly for whatever reason, and there's many different reasons for that. We might not even try another couple of days. Language support, we might go right to tier 3. And just a note is, every student, special ed, general ed students, benefit from MTSS. So it's for all students. In the ideal typical situation, students will though, however, go through the tiered model of supports to the, as a way to support that student. And then there are times we're going through the tiered model. We say, all right, we got a lot of data to support, a lot of interventions to support. The fact that we probably need to do a special education evaluation to see them have a special education support. So we use that model to help with that process. But the law states you cannot say that you're not going to evaluate a student because we want them to go through that. There are times where you don't do that because there's just instances where it's pretty obvious that you cannot wait that long to do a special education evaluation. So there's exceptions to that.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. staff recognition of educator of the year.
So, John and Peter were chatting last week when we met, about how do we recognize our staff who have got this prestigious countywide award. Last year we had Carol McGill, who was our middle school math teacher, teacher of the year for middle school, classroom teacher. And this year, Carrie Gendel, our assistant principal here at the elementary school, was awarded the administrator of the year for Lake County. So, thoughts that you guys had moving forward with how to recognize them.
Yeah, well, my idea was just, if we do something simple, we agree on a policy, if they get educator of the year in Lake County, we send a little certificate, it could be on a docx file saved in the administration room, and just, when they change it, we print it out, we give it to them, just as something to say, we here at the board recognize you and appreciate you for what you've done. Not too much, but, we have a form, we save it. So when it does happen, we're ready, and we, print out something, they get a little form and a frame, and just something to say, congratulations from the board for your hard work.
I think it's a good idea, we should definitely. recognize them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Something like
throw
that.
in like a edible arrangement or something, you know?
That's right. I'm just basic, I'm thinking basic. If we want to make it more, we can
No,
make it
it
more.
has to be too fancy, but,
Yeah.
something more than a
You
certificate.
certainly have to recognize it, I would think.
Or a card, just saying like, thank you for everything, and then you all sign in, or. I just think more like a.
But I mean,
You're thinking like a Frosty or something.
Uh,
I'm with you.
they're like,
I think that's a heck of a thing to get.
I think
That's,
it's-
that's what you aspire towards, I mean.
yeah, I mean, we can come up with a policy of, all right, every time we get educator of the year or administrator of the year or something of the year, we give them, a certificate and a Frosty or
Yeah,
edible arrangement.
we'll talk about that, we'll figure out something.
If we go with a editable arrangement, then it could be a good thing also, and then it celebrates everybody. Here it is in the lounge. This is in honor of Ms. Kedwell, who won Administrator of the Year. Please enjoy.
Yeah.
And so it shares to everybody. And you can make it a little something.
We'll have to give them a choice of two things or something. 'cause some people might not like it.
that.
I like what you're thinking.
Yeah,
I like the road we're headed down. So
Yeah.
I think it's something we should definitely.
And we should have it where it's a policy, every time we get a winner, they get a certificate, edible arrangement, something, and that way it's on the book, so it's taken care of, and, by the time, because this thing works so fast, by the time we're done, it's gonna be July, and I don't want her to feel like, oh, we're coming in at the last minute, but
And if we go back and do the person who won last year, because this is a pretty new award for the county, isn't it? Yeah.
Yep.
So there's
I
only
would,
been two.
I'd be good with that, yeah,
I would be fine with celebrating that other person.
for sure.
Yeah.
Maybe we get
How do we
three of them
write
next
that
year.
You don't have to write it up, you just have to tell.
Okay.
It's just a practice.
okay, then I think that would be
So
it.
just give us the
Like you have,
parameters and.
you have discretionary, like a slush, not slush. Per diem or I don't know.
Yeah, big time. So Lisa's edibles, yeah. That's actually a good idea. The metaphors are nice.
So yeah, we don't need to.
Be
like
digging through
do-
the envelope.
Right.
Yeah, it's just something, I think, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think it's a good thing.
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought it up.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it's a good practice.
Think about something, bring it back to us.
I will note, to be Debbie Downer, this is coming out of, the school's budget, we cannot give gift cards.
Yeah.
Because it becomes taxable income.
Yeah.
So we can give gifts.
You can give a gift.
You
Yeah.
can give
And
them-
then either flowers or edibles, right? That's
This one's
Next
part of my-
Food's usually
Yeah.
a good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Food's good.
something.
Yes, I agree. We'll come up with something.
That would be- recognition from the board to the teachers, and we just, whenever we have a winner, it's on the books of, okay, this is the file, this is the docx where it is, and we change it, and we print it out, and we can, follow up edible arrangements or whatever, and congratulations, we appreciate you for all you did. I think that would be good.
Then they can have a pet reel and give it to him. I'm serious. That's a serious thing.
It's a big deal.
That's a big deal. I think it's a big deal.
I don't think we wanted to go. Okay, then I think we have instructions on that. Future agenda. Oh, yeah, future agenda.
District consolidated plan is something that we have to approve every year. We'll get it done and show it to you in June. It's long, it's what we need to show you and you approve so that we can get all of our state funding. Title I, well, it's our federal funding, but the state regulates it, so we have to apply for it every year. And we have to give the new one is called a consolidated plan because they took all of the grants and consolidated them into one, but all they did is put tabs, right? It made it more work, but whatever. I digress. So, anyway, we have to prove that. We'll show you that in June. Then there'll be always policy updates coming up, the budget. We'll try to put pieces together for the budget for next year and get some projections ready, and that's getting ready soon with our consultant PMA. Fees, we want to talk about sports fees. We can do that in June. Just be thinking about the philosophy of sports fees. Gathered a little bit more information that I'll share this Friday in my notes about how many kids participate in extracurriculars and how many do multiple extracurriculars at our school, et cetera, et cetera. So you could say, if you've got 2 or 3 kids in school, do we want to do a family max? Do we want to do a student per student max? And then that's all discussions that we've had over the years. And I can give you any history that you want on it, or
We're higher than most. Is there a reason we have less kids in it? We need more? We're higher than most of the other schools around, I think.
are we?
Yeah.
I haven't done that in about 10 years.
I'll take it offline.
You can, yeah. Yep. So the question, but it's to your point, which is a great point, Jeff. Do you want that to cover 100% of the cost? Or does the community cover the cost? So for kids to participate in basketball, let's say, which is an after school program, we currently charge students $150, and that covers a certain portion of that cost for the district, and the district covers the rest. What percentage should the district cover, and what percentage should those particular participants cover? Is the question. So if for the community who don't have kids participating in any extracurriculars or even have kids in school, should they be picking up the balance of that cost? And that's just a philosophical question. The board's been all over the place since my time. We used to cover most of the cost, and then we covered, when we went through cuts, we covered 100% of the cost. As parents, we covered 100% of the cost for a long period of time. And now it's, going in less and less increments. Because the focus was, how do we get more kids involved in school? That's our priority. And we offer free transportation after school too. So there's that cost that the community covers to make sure that the kids have the opportunity to get home and get a ride. It's hard for parents to get off work sometimes at 4:30 or 4:15 when practice ends. But we try to cover, get as many kids involved, remove those barriers to participation. And anybody in free reduced lunch is free. Anybody who has gone through some family crisis, I have the authority by board policy we have a form to fill out, and they just give us something happens in the family recently, don't worry about it.
that's a couple of years about like having a limit on family, like if someone was in 3 or 4
Yeah.
families.
Yeah, we talked about it every year, but it impacts very few people. The last time we talked about it, probably when your kids were born, and my kids were both in middle
That's
school, and it
true,
was
I think.
insane. It was our two boys who had the most
There's a lot of people with
participation,
multiple kids.
and our two boys were in like 6 different
Mhm.
things that were paid for. But that's a little bit unusual. So those are just the steps, it's
A
okay.
future agenda.
There's no wrong answer to it. Just start to think about that and maybe do a little bit of recon if you want. See what people are thinking and feeling. Then we have the consolidated, we already talked about consolidated grants. Salary rate sheet, so we have to determine in June our salaries. Our year ends June 30th, and so July 1st. Those employees who are not part of the union don't have a set contract, we just decide those rates every year. So that would be our secretaries, bus drivers, secretaries, bus drivers. Yep. Is that it?
Playground people?
Playground people, yeah. Some more tech people. Yep, there's a bunch of just one-off groupings of people who aren't part of anything. Then lunch fees for the next school year. So today we approved the contract of what we will pay Arbor. But then we look at, okay, how much are we gonna charge our families to cover the cost? For upcoming, there'll probably be more, but that's what we know. Superintendent report, there's air conditioner, as I put my board notes on Friday, and we got a middle school is broken. Some spots, so we're gonna get some temporary units. We got a decent price on some temporary units, just a few, just kind of knock it down in some of those areas because these schools are not designed for airflow because they're designed for air conditioning because they have air conditioning. So these windows, even if you open them in here, there's no place for the air to go. And in the courtyard, if this is the same at the other school in the media center, it just bakes in there. It gets so hot. So it's really hard to regulate the temperature. So we're gonna get some portable units and try to knock down make it bearable for people to be in there so kids can still access the media center and our employees will be able to stay in that corner. And then there's some interior rooms like the choir room and a couple other rooms that are included that have no windows, so. It's an airflow. We'll do our best for that. The graduation's on June 5th with the week 5:30, but we can confirm that. Either 5:30 or 6 it starts. All are welcome. Board president usually hands out diplomas. Anybody else that would like to participate, will do. If you want special seating up in the front and be recognized. That's great, but that's not don't have to be there, but it's great to see it either. Or president has to.
I'm off, I will be there.
Traditionally. No one has ever missed it.
No pressure.
That's true.
You gotta write-
Let's go with it.
Let's go with
You
it.
gotta write-
Doesn't have to. You must do. That's it for me.
Alright, so we covered a lot of this. We jumped down to page 2. The bottom, the first bottom there, the financial audit. So every year we have a financial audit. It will be held this year, the fiscal year 2023 financial audit will start September 18th. Typically the auditor asks to speak to 2 board members. It can be anyone who wants to volunteer just for a brief hour during that week. just go over some policy questions. I've asked the auditor though to come in July because our current payroll specialist is retiring August 2nd. And so I would like the auditor to meet with Bonnie White to go over all the payroll audit questions and information they have. So they'll do the payroll audit in July. Talked about the rooftop unit. So the cost for the coil replacement, will be just over $37,000. That work will start in about a month because there's a 30-day lead time on the supplies to replace those coils. And then if we scroll down, we talked about all this, or a new payroll specialist started today, Jackie Savage. She comes with a lot of experience. Her start date is going to give her the opportunity to work with Bonnie for the next couple of months. Go through a few payroll periods and year-end processing.
Just as far as I saw in our consent agenda, we got one summer custodian. I know that was something that you anticipated being difficult to fill.
Yeah.
Do you have more applications pending or?
No, fortunately not.
Yep.
Yeah, this will be a tight custodial summer because one of our elementary custodians is retiring June 9th. So we will be down a custodian here as well.
Is that something that you have the authority to, because, you know, that the decision was made before this board was sitting to increase the pay rate without having to consult us just to get the positions filled or no?
So the custodial, are you talking about the summer?
The summer, yeah.
We'd have to go back to the board
We would.
in June.
Because we're looking at like 3 weeks until they're supposed to start, right? Yeah.
Mhm.
And if we don't even have applications pending,
Yeah.
I don't
think
even
we
know
can
if
even Stretch high enough.
Right,
The-
to get people to come in.
Just think, and I just anecdotally, I can tell you what the job market is like for teens right now. And those are the people that we used to target that would fill those positions because you couldn't get a job anyplace about 6 or 7 years ago or more. Teens, it was real hard to find a job. I was worried about that for my kids when they came to that job age and like, oh, they're never gonna get a job and learn how to work. But that, boy, did that flip quick. And now they are in high demand for seasonal teenagers. So Gray America is starting in the mid-20s.
there's a sign posted at Grays Lake High School for Grays Lake Park District, 16 to 18.
Mhm.
Yeah, so they're, it's,
Yeah, lifeguard, I think it's like 21 an hour. I mean, it's
yeah, both.
pretty competitive there right now. Yeah.
When I, because I shared with one of them who needs a flexible schedule, it's hard worker. Said, hey, would you consider doing this? We can be pretty flexible with our hours and then fit into your other job. But I told him, I said, yeah. No. You can make almost double that.
The other challenge with that too is what our current custodians are.
That's right.
The contracted ones for the regular employer.
Right. But the difference, here's the challenge with that. What our current full-time employees make is included in that is health insurance, which is like huge private. When you've got teenage kids that they're just working for cash. And they're living at home and they don't need health insurance, they don't need benefits. It's just that much money. So it'd be comparable, what the district pays is comparable when you factor that in. But those kids don't need that, so they just want that. So it's a different, it's an interesting. That's why it's a challenge for us, because we have to offer our full-time employees that health insurance, which is very expensive. Right? Expensive.
I think the other challenge though would be, then we would have to approve that in June. The college kids are already back pretty much, right? And high school kids are getting close to being out of school.
But if I'm hearing, if we find somebody that I hear might be interested, maybe. we can, if it works. We'll let you know.
You're looking to fill 6 positions, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And last year we didn't. Last year we only filled 2. So we still made it through the summer.
We'll make it. It's just a
Yeah.
matter of how many of the other little projects we'll make on.
Right.
You know, one of the projects is the curb outside at both schools, the yellow curb is worn off and looking pretty crummy. You just pressure wash and then paint it with a roller, curb paint. Not hard, but it's time. Great opportunity, you know. College kid.
How low can we go? 12-year-olds?
Mhm.
12-year-old. Might be on the cheap too.
Go pretty low, not on a ladder.
Be good for him.
Business office.
That was it. Yeah.
Board report.
I attended the Millburn Family Fun Night. John and I were selling some baked goods there, and Charlie was there too, selling some snacks. It was good seeing people out there, you know. One of the problems Epic is having is they're not getting a lot of volunteers. Margaret's the current president of it, and she's gonna be starting her student teaching next year. And so she's out as president, so, you know, doing a plug for them, if you know anybody who's interested in getting involved in some way, you know, they do a lot of stuff that without the volunteers can't be done. I saw the Horizon Navy Band, I saw John there too, so that was fun, you know, having the younger kids asking, they see the military and they're like, no, the military just go fight, but no, they also do provide other services to the community, like bring happiness through music, so that was a good thing. I got some face-to-face time with our state representative Joyce Mason to chat about the Invest in Kids Act. She supports it sunset, the voucher program. She supports it sunsetting. The state didn't finalize a budget when they were supposed to close out on Friday, so hopefully, you know, that's 75 million that's going to private schools instead of public schools. I finished my reading the coming to order book that we got. That was some fun. I'm about 3 modules into the Open Meetings Act.
I saw Lisa there as well, the kindergarten, not kindergarten, 3rd grade, music show in the gym. It was really fun to see. I don't know if it's been held since the pandemic, a musical. So the kids are really great. The music teacher here did amazing. A great turnout. Like that gym was packed. I think the only complaint is it was hot. It was really hot. People were sweating in the bleachers, but it was a good program. So it was great just to see the amount of people that came out.
And the talent show was good too. The talent show got packed. I think this was their first time back from, since COVID. Mostly elementary acts, but there were a few middle school acts too.
I did the family fun night with Fred, and I also sat down with Carly, and she gave me a tour of the business administration side of our school. So if you have the chance, she will gladly give you a tour. Don't push the red button, you know. But have fun and enjoy and sit down and really learn about the business side. It's not really thought about when it comes to education. I appreciate the tour. We have no closed session tonight. So, I need a motion to adjourn. What?
Motion to adjourn.
There we go.
Second.
There we go. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night.